Okay, this is the PySys Action Tracking and Management System, ATMS. It's a web-based tool which allows you to create and manage actions from being open all the way through various review stages to being closed. So I'm going to run through a very quick demo and hopefully be able to demonstrate the key features of ATMS. It's used by hundreds and hundreds of people all over the world, projects of all sizes, companies of all sizes, and projects of all types of complexity, from very, very simple management audits all the way through to very high governance, HAZOPs and HAZIDs. So I'm going to just show you the basics here. I've logged in as a typical user, and a few things to say here. Practically every piece of text that you see, the names you call things, the way things are organised on screen, can all be changed by you. You don't need to come back to us to do that for you. So if you don't like the word project, for example, you can change it to something else. ATMS really doesn't care. ATMS has got a kind of hierarchy. It structures actions in a kind of three-level way. We start with a thing we call a project. Under the project, we'll call a project here, we've got AAA, and under AAA we've got AAA HAZOP 1. That's a sub-project in our world. You can refer to them as anything you like. And under that sub-project level, you can then create actions. So you can organise your actions in a lot of different ways, and it's a good idea when you start using ATMS to be absolutely clear on how that's going to work, particularly if you're working with a lot of different internal stakeholders, just so you all agree in the way that that's going to happen. Probably the easiest way to demonstrate ATMS is to create an action. That's what it's all about. So I'm going to click the new action button. I'm going to select a sub-project to put this action under. I'm going to use ATMS A1 HAZID, which is a high governance HAZID project. And as you can see, a few things have happened. There's an auto number there. Now you get to control the way that works. You get to control the format of that number. And because we've created 11 actions already in this project or sub-project, it's auto-generated the number 12. You can overwrite that if you want to maybe reflect an external reference, but I think most people just stick with the number that's auto-generated. There's various fields here as well. There's 3 review stages. Craig, Graham and Bruce are all going to review this action after it's been completed. And there's a priority field here as well, and we'll talk a bit about that as we come to it. But basically I'm just going to describe something I need somebody to do, and then we will decide who's going to do it, and we will then work that action through the whole cycle of review and eventual closure. So I'll make it there's a document number A13 and I want somebody to review it, and I'm going to say that somebody's going to be Pete Henderson. I'm going to make it high priority action. Now the priorities etc. are associated with colour codes. You get to choose the names of these priorities, you get to choose the colours, and again, just about everything you see on the screen there is configurable. So don't worry if what you're seeing doesn't match up with the way that you do things or the names that you give things, because it is all configurable. Now the only other thing I need to do here is put a date in by which I want the action to be completed. There's a few extra tabs at the top here. Project details picks up some project information, and we'll come onto the project screen in a minute. But for example, there I've attached a document containing the HAZID minutes, but you can attach anything you like. You can attach any number of documents you want, just to help to inform the person that's going to be completing the action. Next to that tab there's another attachments tab. This is more related to the actual action, and this would contain, for example, evidence that you've completed the action. It might contain additional information that is required to complete the action. It can really contain anything you like. There's no real limit. It's not really a document management system. It's more of a scratch pad or a temporary store to just to make life a little bit easier. And it does mean that when the action travels around through your organisation, it's carrying everything it needs with it. You don't have to go hunting for stuff. And that's one of the real great points about ATMS. Everything's in one place. It's all very centralized and very, very easy to use. So go back to the Basics tab. We've created an action. We've assigned it to Peter. And all I'm going to do now is save it. I press save. And you can see there an email is going to be created. And if I wanted to involve other people in this email, I could type their email addresses in here. I could put more text in there if I wanted to. And that functions quite handy if you've got external stakeholders, customers or whoever, and all you want to do is keep them in the loop. You don't necessarily need them to be right in the middle of every action, but you just want them to know that something's happening. So you can put their email addresses in there and they'll be copied on the list. I'm going to close that and I'm going to send the email. And now I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in. Pete Henderson. As you can see, the action that we just created is right at the top of the list. I'll say something about the main action screen here. There's a box that says required my attention. If I just unclick that, you'll see there's a whole lot of actions in this system. Most people, most users, normal users who aren't system administrators, are only really interested in the actions that they are involved with. And basically what we're saying here is all the actions I can see are actions that have either been assigned to complete or they are actions in which I am part of the review process. So, and not only that, but the action has reached me for review. So I won't even see things that simply involve me. So I might be the final approver in an action. I won't see that action until, if I've ticked that box, until it's time for me to see it. Now, if I want to see all the actions that I've got something to do with, I can tick that box, which is actions involving me, and that would pick up actions where I am one of the people involved. And there's a great deal of flexibility in terms of how you use that. It's a bit like Excel, the front screen. And again, the layout and the names of things, you can click on these fields and sort them in ascending or descending order. And you can search for things as well. If you wanted to, for example, you knew that one of your actions had the word tether in it, there you go. You can do a free text search which will find all the occurrences of the word tether. Well, let's go back to the action that I've got to do. So let's open this action and I review the action there. Yeah, I've got to review document A13. Is there anything else there? No, I don't have any attachments. I've got the minutes of the hazard there though. That's quite useful. So basically what I'm going to do is say document reviewed, no problem. And what I can do then is, as what we call the actionee or the action owner, I tick this box that says complete and save it. Now, if we look at the review stages, reviewer 1's a guy called Craig Buchan, reviewer 2 is Graham Skinner, approver is Bruce Skinner. Now, what's going to happen here, when I save this action, Craig is going to get an email. So it's the same idea as last time. But as soon as I've closed the action, the action disappears from my screen because I don't have to worry about it anymore. I've completed it. So as far as I'm concerned, it's gone. Now, as we'll see later on, if Craig doesn't like what I've done with this action, he can reject it and I will be seeing it again. But let's log out for now and we'll log in as Craig. And we'll continue the action life cycle. So I've logged in as Craig and he's got a bit more to do, but down at the bottom of his list of actions there's our one, review document A13. I'll open that and he looks at the summary. That's what he wanted Peter to do. Peter's obviously completed that and he can decide whether that's okay or not. And as a reviewer, he's got an extra option. He can either say I approve it or I reject it. And if, like, we're going to reject it actually, just to show how that works, but on rejection, what will happen is Peter will get an email to say it's rejected. It will then disappear from Craig's list of actions and the cycle will start again. I wanted to talk about this audit tab. There was nothing in it when the action was created, but as the action moves from open to closed, you can see that stuff is being added to it, stuff's being changed. And one of the key things about ATMS, it's got a high built-in level of governance, and it basically tells you who changed what and when they did it and what they changed it to. If Craig wanted to add a note, for example, let's say he didn't think the document had been reviewed correctly. Now that's a little bit vague, but it's just for demonstration purposes. You can see that that note then arrives in the audit trail. You can go back to the basics tab, and instead of approving it, let's say we want to reject it. And Peter's going to get an email. As you can see, the email is getting a bit bigger, the contents of the email, and it's really just a summary of where the action's been and the status it's in, and it carries as much or as little information as is relevant to that action. So I'm going to close that off. Peter's then going to get an email, and again that action's disappeared from the screen. I'll log out, log back in as Peter. And there we are, review document A13, just can't get rid of that one today, so there I am, document reviewed, no problems. And let's look at this. So document not reviewed correctly, okay, so I've obviously got to do something with that. Let's say, again, I'm happy that I've reviewed the document. I resubmit it. If I wanted to, for example, attach the document, I could simply attach the file here, and that would perhaps be evidence that I'd done it. But for now, all I'm going to say is I have completed this action. I'm going to save it again, and as you can see, the email is going to be generated and sent to Craig. I'm not going to go all the way through the review cycle because I think you probably get the idea now, but effectively what's going to happen is Craig will then get to review my response. If he's happy with it, it will then pass to the other two people in the review cycle, and they've also got the opportunity to accept or reject my closure or my description of the closure of the action. And assuming that all works, it's going to be closed out. And once it's closed out, it disappears from the final reviewer's screen and the action is closed. But if any of them wanted to reject it, if they weren't happy with it, they could reject it and it would go all the way back to the beginning again, and Peter would have to take the appropriate action. And that's how ATMS works. And the vast majority of time, the bulk of the time in ATMS is spent doing that, simply closing off, responding to actions. So that's what you've just seen is really 80% of what ATMS does. Now, also to show you another really interesting and useful part of ATMS, which is the reporting section. There are a lot of inbuilt reports. There's a custom report facility as well, but I wanted to show you one of the most useful reports. It's detailed outstanding actions by users, and it's an awful lot of information about who's got outstanding actions. It's actually got a breakdown by project, and it shows you who needs to be taking action. It's a really good, quick way of identifying bottlenecks. I haven't used any of the filters. There are some filters up here we narrow down on action party or actionee or owner there, and I could also use project there as a filter. And in fact, let's do that because this one's the one we've been playing with. So it's very, very easy to see and get totals of the actions that are overdue. You can also get a more abbreviated version of the report. You can have an action summary by status. Let's do it for all projects. And that's a really good management report as well, because it quickly identifies the projects and sub-projects that are perhaps requiring a bit more intervention. And you probably get the idea now. You can drill into this from this top level report. It's very easy to pick up a project and then drill into one of the more detailed reports. You can also report in a graphical format as well, but it's quite a useful arsenal of tools. This report's a kind of a name and shame report. I know it gets used a lot by our customers. It's basically, for each project, it's listing the actual action IDs that are outstanding on individuals, and you can immediately see that one, A1 Hazed and Craig Buchan, has got quite a lot of actions, and so it's an easy tool to use to inform a conversation with Craig, or maybe look at an issue that's happening somewhere else. So the reporting section is really useful. There are also custom reports you can put together. I'm not going to do it because it's quite an involved thing. If you are familiar with things like crystal reports or reporting tools that accompany quite a lot of web systems, you might see some of this as being familiar. You can pick up fields, you can apply operators to them, and basically you can create reports to suit your own purposes. You can also do a lot from the main screen. If I take away this require my attention box, I could, for example, easily just show all the actions for Atms V4 Hazed, and they go all the way over there. Everything you see can be exported to Excel, so you can export stuff for your own purposes. You can produce reports or what have you. Should also mention there's an import function, so if you're doing an offsite HasOp, for example, which is quite common, you can record the data in a CSV file, and you can download the template from the site and then re-import the actions once you're finished. So that's quite a useful tool. What I was quickly wanting to show you was some of the admin functionality. I'll quickly show you, for example, the controls section. I said before that just about everything you see is configurable, and this is where you do it. All these fields are configurable, and in fact, if you want to, you can create your own fields. So, for example, let's say we didn't like action summary. We want to call it something else. Let's say we want to call it summary of action. I'll quickly flick back into an action and just show you, and there you go, the text has changed. It is really that easy, but perhaps more powerful is the ability to create a control. So I for example want to make a control called external reference. Let's say I want it to be a drop down list, and I'm just going to type in, this could be anything you like, of course, and it's going to be a drop down list. It's going to appear on the basics tab, so it's going to be the front page of the action, if you like, the action record. It's going to be quite high up. Let's make it position 5 in the actions, and over on the right hand side, this is where we talk about where it's going to be on the main screen, which has got all the actions on it. So you can decide whether it's going to appear there, and if it is, what order it's going to be in. Let's make it position 5 as well and see what happens there. So I'll create that one, and let's open an action. As you can see there, we've got external reference. So no coding required. You can capture any amount of data that, you know, for absolutely any purpose. And what I didn't show you was that, as well as being able to create controls, you can also create these tabs. So if you've got a whole lot of information that would fit better on its own tab, you can create a tab for that. And you can do the same with projects. I haven't really showed you the project section yet, but I'll just quickly flick into there. And we were in Atms V4 Hazard, and when you open a project, you can see that there's some information there about the project, just a brief description. There's that file that we see attached to the actions, and one of the main things about ATMS is you can nominate the reviewers on a per project basis, but if, for example, one of these guys wasn't available, you could easily change it on a per action basis. There's no problem there at all. If you don't need that many approvers, you just take them out, you just say approver not required, and the last person in the list will be the one who closes it off. So you can have, in this case, up to 4, and there's a system variable that we set if you ask us to. One of the really powerful features of ATMS is this project visibility button. So if, for example, you're working with a series of subcontractors, you don't necessarily want every company that you're dealing with to be able to see every action that you're creating, so you can limit access to various companies on a per project basis. And also you can have individuals. So say, for example, you didn't want company 5 looking at your project, you could exclude company 5 from it, but you do want Trevor in there because Trevor's one of your key guys. He happens to work for company 5, so you can assign visibility to Trevor Bryant without exposing all your actions for this project to everybody from company 5. And it's very, very powerful, and I think a lot of our customers are in that position where they're dealing with subcontractors and multiple stakeholders, and it's possible to have completely separate projects going on within ATMS, and you can isolate it down to that level, down to actual individuals. So back to the admin section. You can also create the controls for the project screen are available here as well. So if you want to, for example, use a drop-down list to store some information, you can do that. If you want to change the names of things, you want to change the order of things, again, you can do that. There's also a housekeeping facility in ATMS because we understand that people move around. So if you've got a user that's got maybe 100 actions and suddenly they're not there anymore, you want to find an easy way to assign those actions to someone else, and there's a very easy way built into ATMS to do that, and it's in this housekeeping module. The user list, when you start ATMS, we import those users from a file, or we can connect directly to your Active Directory system. It depends how you want to run it. There's quite a good facility to tell you how long it is since people used the system. So these 4 people have all used it in the last 30 days, and it's quite a good way of assessing how the system's being used and who's using it most often. So lots of tools built in. I think the main screen that people spend most of their time in is the front screen, and it gives you a very, very quick way of looking at the actions. There's various features here. There's an attachments column, so if an action has attachments, the attachments will appear in there. So that's really the key functionality of ATMS. There is more, but I think I really just wanted to demonstrate the basics of how it works. It only takes a system administrator a couple of hours to learn how to set this up and be using it. And generally, when we sell it, we find our customers prefer to have local systems administrators who are responsible for creating the projects and creating the structures and dealing with first line support. And we provide all the backup, we look after the data, and we provide regular updates. This demo is running in Google Chrome. The system will run in Safari, Firefox, Internet Explorer, so it's multi-browser. And the fact it is a central place to manage actions. It moves your actions off locally stored spreadsheets and Word documents, and it exposes them to the business. And it does mean that your actions become much more visible, and the governance and management of actions becomes an awful lot easier with ATMS. So I'd encourage you to contact us if you'd like a more detailed demonstration. But for now, I'd like to just thank you very much for your interest.